Hey guys, Abner Miranda here. Today I wanted to address something that has kind of come up for me in the past, and I wanted to make sure that it gets said. Whenever I happen to be in a gun shop, which is seldom, honestly guys, it's seldom anymore. I just don't really bother going in those places anymore. But if I happen to be in there, it almost always seems like the guy behind the counter is pushing whatever the latest and greatest is. And as a manufacturer of AR-15s, I have, if you look at every single one of my listings of my sales, they always say at the bottom, production time is like 4 weeks or something like that. The reason that I list that there isn't because it takes me 4 weeks. Historically, I have delivered usually within 3 days. The most has been a week and a half. And in some instances, it was like 2 weeks because the customer just really wanted like one particular component that I had to just sit and wait for. But I have dealer status with a bunch of different manufacturers and distributors nationwide. And the reason I'm telling you this is that very recently, probably in the last 8 months or so, I stopped carrying a lot of things, a lot of bulk things. Like there are certain items like QD plates, castle rings, buffer tubes, lower parts kits, mil-spec lower parts kits. Those are things that I'm going to carry, that I'm going to carry. But I've stopped carrying a specific barrel, a specific anything. Because what I'm trying to avoid is getting in a position where either consciously or subconsciously I say to myself, man, I got to move 14.5s, or I've got to move 10 threes or 11 threes or whatever, because I bought a case of them. I've done that in the past, guys, and it has financially bitten me, which is why I've stopped doing that. Because in doing that, I find myself subconsciously or consciously pushing certain things, and I really don't want to be that kind of a guy. Now, I will tell you right now, without equivocation, my favorite AR-15 is the 7.5. I love it all day long. It's tiny. Even at extended distances, I can pinpoint, put bullets where I want them to be. It's a great weapon for vehicle work. It's a great weapon for CQB. Yes, you can put a suppressor on a 7.5, and it doesn't have to be a suppressor, a 7.5 specific suppressor. Manufacturers aren't going to tell you that because they don't want to warranty that, but I'm telling you that because, I've done it. I mean, guys, I've done it. And it doesn't ruin the can. I don't carry things in stock like I used to because I do not want to be driven subconsciously to try to move something and sell you something that you don't need. Guys, I need you to trust that when you reach out to me and you say, what do you think about 7.5 versus 10.3 versus 11.3 versus 14.5 versus 16 versus 18 versus whatever, I'm going to give you an honest answer. And in fact, I'll give you the honest answer right now. If you are looking, people ask me this all the time. I'm looking for I'm looking for a home defense gun. I'll say to them, 7.5 suppressed. But, okay, I already covered that. Yeah, you can put a can on a 7.5. Remember, you're not talking about coming out to the range and blazing off round after round after round. You're talking about a home defense gun. So 7.5 suppressed for home defense. If you are talking about a vehicle gun, 7.5 to 10.3. Anything longer than 10.3 in a vehicle is pretty rough. You're going to have to, for vehicle ops, you're going to have to compress the stock. You're going to have to be working with the gun with this kind of thing going on, because like roughly that's about where an A post would be. So you're talking about having to kind of do this, because remember, if I'm out, I'm bumping into stuff. So if I'm intending on getting around corners properly, I'm going to have to compress this weapon, which is why 7.5 to 10.3. I've done vehicle ops, a lot of vehicle ops, and I've run it with a 10.3. And 10.3, I'll see if I can dig up the video and I'll put it into this video. Buddy, 10.3 is pushing the limit of what you can do inside of a car.
Oh, he can't get it up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you're talking about CQB ranges, CQB is really weird because CQB to me is like 25 yards and in, but CQB to some people is like out to 200 yards. Seriously? We're at 67 yards to that white target down there. 67 yards. This to me is already past CQB, but to some people CQB is like out that a ways, whatever. For those ranges, 10.3 to 11.3. 11.3, oh man, 11.3 all day long. 11.3 guys. Oh, 11.3, the reason I say 11.3 versus 11.5 is I've got Hansen. I tend to lean toward all things ballistic advantage because I've been using their barrels for years and I really like, this is a Hansen barrel, 14.5. I like the 10.3 625. I like the 11.3 625. I like the 14.5 625 because the weapon is really light with that barrel. And the capabilities there, I can with this weapon, honestly, with my 10.3, I can drill targets consistently from long distances where the rounds are just really touching one another. So forget about like, you know, what's your grouping? No, my grouping is rounds are touching one another. So you don't have to measure at that point. If all the rounds are clover leafing one another, there's your group. Once you're talking about 200-ish and out, then yeah, 14.5. 14.5. Once again, 11.3 will get it done. 11.3 honestly will do everything. Even in a pinch, you can do 11.3 in a vehicle. So it really is a weapon that's really capable of doing everything. But if you're talking about distance, then 14.5 drilled, pin and welded like the one here behind me, or dedicated 16. The other day I was out here at 200-ish and change, and I was shooting a target the size of that one, which is roughly 19 inches side to side. At 200 yards, the dot on an RMR 06 is flipping, it looks like a beach ball. It's big. So you're doing a lot of guessing. And so you're having difficulty keeping that shot inside of, you know, like a 6x10 area, which is where you want to be hitting a person. And I know that we live in a 1,000-yard world, but 200 yards, guys, is an incredibly long distance because, like I said earlier, from here to that target is 67 yards. 67 yards. That is nothing distance-wise, and yet this is such a long distance. Am I really going to trade shots with a guy at this distance? Not if I can avoid it, which is why the drill that I was doing earlier was I started from him. I ran to 47 yards, which is where that barrier is over there. Fired a bunch of rounds, ran over here to 60-something on, 67 yards, whatever it says. Fired a bunch of rounds from here and moved on that way. What I'm getting at is this. It almost doesn't matter what you're looking for. Unless you're saying to me, I want something for like 300 yards, okay, well then we need to just build you an SPR. Just like, let's just go to the 16-inch or the 18-inch barrel and let's just do that. But if you're telling me you want CQB ranges, you want house, you want vehicle, guys, seriously, the answer is 7.5 to 14.5. It just sort of kind of covers everything. I know that I've probably created more questions than created answers for some of you, but there's so much of this that goes on in this industry instead of this. People spend so much time telling me what they heard, what they read in a forum. Oh, well, my friend is blah, 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 blah. Your opinion does nothing to change my experience. And my experience with these weapons has been that everything from a 7.5 to a 10.3 to an 11.3, and I'm talking in there has been 8-inch, 9.25, 10.3, 10.5, 11.3, 11.5, 11.7, 12 something, 12.5, 13 something. I've shot all those different iterations of the AR-15, and at every distance out to 200 and 300 yards, it's been ding, ding, ding. It's not that hard. Get off the forums, guys. Get a gun, start training. As always, I thank you guys for watching. God bless you all. Get those guns out in practice. Have a good one.